The circuit has rubbered in with practice, but this is still going to be a difficult session for our drivers as they fight for pole position. Welcome to qualifying here in Azerbaijan. With the weather as it is today, Anthony Davidson, we have, to some extent, to throw the form book out of the window. Who do you see having the advantage on this slippery, unpredictable track surface?
Traditionally, these are very Adrian Newey conditions. The Red Bull's habit of creating incredible downforce coupled with the high rake they like to run is perfect for the wet, and it's helped them close the power gap a number of times over recent years. I think Force India as well, always a bit of a dark horse in changeable conditions, and of course the McLarens have a fairly good chassis. Having said that, I don't want to make a firm prediction. More than performance, the deciding factor is going to be the timing. The level of wetness out on the track is going to constantly rise and fall, and anyone who can find that perfect window when it's at its driest will have a big advantage out there.
Nice job.
As we wind down from the excitement of qualifying, here's a look at your top three.
Great work out there today. How do you think it went? It's got to be a relief to qualify that far up the grid. The weather hasn't been ideal in qualifying. What's your take? You scraped the walls a few times. Were you struggling? Great. Well, that's everything.
All right, I think we can call that a successful qualifying. We should be in with a good chance in the race.
Good afternoon and welcome to Baku. This was the arena, if you think back to 2017, of one of the most eventful races of modern history, with controversy behind the safety car, last-second overtakes, and a historic podium for Williams and for Lance Stroll. So let's find out what lies in store for us this year. It's time for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. It's 3.7 miles around a lap of Baku City Circuit then, with 7 rights and 13 lefts, giving us a total of 20 corners. Watch out for the safety car today. Incidents are already common on this circuit, and the wet conditions will only make things worse, particularly through the incredibly narrow turn 8. It's not going to be plain sailing for our drivers today, although with the sky falling as it is, perhaps sailing isn't too far from the truth. Anthony Davidson, could be a wet one today. Great to have you with us. What are your thoughts?
It is a touch damp, isn't it? Well, as a driver, there are 3 big things to worry about when racing in these kind of conditions: standing water, tyre temperature and visibility. And judging distance to the cars around you is really tricky when you're driving through the vast amounts of spray that these wet weather Pirelli tyres kick up.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. Kimi Räikkönen starts today from pole position, and starting alongside in P2 is Sebastian Vettel. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Ricciardo, Valtteri Bottas and Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Hülkenberg and Carlos Sainz, Alonso, Ocon, Varsandi and Magnussen, Stroll, Van Dorn, Romain Grosjean and Marcus Ericsson. Sirotkin and Brendan Hartley rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
We've qualified above where we expected to. Okay, our system checks are good. We need to stay in formation and start bringing the car up to temperature, please. Get some load into the tyres and work the brakes. We want them nice and warm by the end of the lap. Heavy rain to stay a while. Doesn't look like it's moving anytime soon. Alright, well done off the line, we're in a good position. Okay, we've lost a position. That's us down a place. Brilliant. Nice move. The gap to the car ahead is 3.8 seconds. Our gap to the car in front is 2.9 seconds. we're leading our teammate by 23.2 seconds. Ricardo is the fastest man on the track at the moment. Okay, the gap behind is 2.6 seconds. Okay, gap ahead is 3.3 seconds. Our gap to first place is 7.5 seconds. I think we're still on the right tyres for the time being. Good job, nice overtake. We're running an excess on fuel. Mix 3 is there if you need it. Mix 3. Good job. That was the fastest lap of the race so far. We have 5 laps of fuel remaining. We're running much higher than we ever expected to. Keep focused and do your best to bring this home. There's 4 laps of fuel remaining. Great maneuver. You made it look easy. Gap to car in front is 3.2 seconds. This is your final lap of the race. There's 3 laps of fuel remaining. Well done, good finish. You stepped up and achieved what we asked. Good job.
That's a fantastic performance from Ferrari. It hardly looked in doubt. So, Ant, how exactly did they set themselves apart from the pack today?
It's a heroic effort for any driver to race in conditions like these, and seeing them fight their way to the front was very special indeed. They were able to find all the grip, all the good lines, and had the confidence to get on the power to top it all off. That's what pushed them into first place here today.
And as we can see, it's time for the podium, and as the drivers make their way out, there's a familiar red suit making its way to the top step. Fantastic win for Ferrari. And now let's take a look at the driver's standings. Varsandi increases their championship lead. And now I'd like to ask you, Anthony Davidson, who was your driver of the day?
I have to give it to Varsandi. They demonstrated a very delicate touch.
Good day today. Tell us about it from your perspective. You were cutting your way through the field during the race. Another podium. You must be getting used to it up there. You're surpassing all expectations. Can anything or anyone stop you? The weather was miserable today, but do you feel this was an advantage? Great! Well, that's everything.
Fantastic podium. Well done. Keep pushing like this for the rest of the season. Here we can adjust the terms of our proposal. The more ambitiously we set our targets, the more willing the team will be to give us better perks. We'll have a few chances to suggest a deal, but we need to be careful. If a proposed contract exceeds your value to the team, it will be rejected, and too many attempts will leave us stuck with the original offer. All right, the terms have been agreed. All that's left is to sign the paperwork. You'll be on this new deal from the next race weekend.